Welcome to Dishing Up Nutrition, brought to you by Nutritional Weight and Wellness. I am Brittany Vincent, a registered and licensed dietitian, and we want to thank you so much for joining us today as we discuss our top essential nutritional supplements. We get questions about this often, so I think this will be a popular show. And I'm sure a lot of you have wondered or thought about taking a vitamin or other type of nutritional supplement, only to find yourself even more confused after researching and just questioning, which one should I take? And there are so many on the market. I feel like there's just more and more options every day, which makes it even more difficult to know what you really need. And at Nutritional Weight and Wellness, we really believe that a food first philosophy is so important. We want to get as much as we can from real food. However, you can't always do that. And we also believe it's important to mention you can't out supplement a processed food diet, right? You can think of supplements as just an addition to a diet of real food. So there are some key supplements we really do feel that are essential for optimal health. And these are nutrients that we just don't get enough of in our modern day diets. And sometimes people just want that assurance that they're getting optimal nutrients. And let's face it, most of us don't eat a perfect diet. So realistically, it can help to take these key supplements on a daily basis. Well, I want to welcome my co-host. Joining me today is Monica Haas, and she is also a registered and licensed dietitian. Welcome, Monica.
Thanks, Brittany. Hello. It's great to be here with you today. And I'm excited about this topic because this topic of key supplements is something that I get a lot of questions about from my clients. Like you mentioned, there's so many different supplements out there. I'm always getting asked, what do you think of this supplement? So definitely a lot of confusion out there. I'm excited to talk about it today. It's something I prioritize for my health and the health of my clients, my own family. Even as dietitians who try our best to nourish ourselves with a balanced, real food diet, like you said, we're not perfect. We sometimes still don't get enough through diet alone. And with so many supplement options available, it can be overwhelming to know which ones are truly beneficial for your health and which are just not worth the money. And I'll add that I also have clients that they don't like swallowing a lot of pills. They might find it challenging or they're just not consistent with it.
Yeah.
So they ask me, okay, what are the ones that I really need for foundational health that are going to make the most difference?
I'm really glad you brought that up. I have clients like that as well. It can be difficult to work it into your daily routine and remember, especially if there's different ones at different times of day. So that's a great point. Just focusing on these basic foundational supplements can be a really wonderful place to start. And we've been talking about, our diets aren't perfect. So some days you might not be eating the ideal amount of vegetables, but I also want to mention that the nutrient content of our food has reduced over the years from poor farming. And so the nutrients in the soil have actually reduced.
Yes.
And I was shocked
that's a good
to
point.
read that one study found that up to 73% of the thiamine, magnesium, and zinc has been reduced in some fruits and vegetables. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Wow.
And then we see, on a label, you'll see percent daily value. And sometimes I get questions about what does that mean? And I just wanted to point out that the percent daily value is the minimum to prevent symptoms of clinical deficiency. So
That is such a good point.
Yeah. We need a lot more than that because we all want to function optimally, of course. So that's another thing to consider. And thinking about which supplements do you really need? Of course, there's tons of ads for miracle supplements on the market promising to be the key to your weight loss or more energy or looking youthful. I mean, there's so many of them out there. And I would say if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Again, we want to focus on that real food diet. So let's cut through all that buzz and explore what supplements we recommend for overall well being that really do matter for your health.
So let's start with something I recommend supplementing to almost everyone, and that's vitamin D. Did you know that there are vitamin D receptors in almost every cell and tissue in our body? So when you think of vitamin D, what comes to mind first? Is it bone health, immune function, better moods? Vitamin D plays a role in all of these things. And a lot of times when I'm writing the supplement charts out for clients, under vitamin D, I just put overall health because it really plays a role in so many different things. And unfortunately, vitamin D is very hard to get in our diet. We can get a small amount in some things like wild-caught fatty fish, like salmon, liver, mushrooms, and eggs that have that nutrient-dense, dark
Mhm.
yellow or orange yolk. Usually this is coming from pasture-raised eggs. You can notice the difference in the eggs right away in the yolk. So think about it, right? If the chickens are out getting sunshine, they're making more vitamin D and their eggs are more concentrated. But still, there's not a ton of foods that have vitamin D in there. Our bodies can make vitamin D when exposed to sunlight, but many of us don't get enough sun exposure, especially when we live in our northern hemisphere. In fact, to get adequate levels for our recommendations, you need direct high noon sun exposure without sunscreen on most of your skin for at least 20 minutes daily. So you can think about it. This would be like laying outside in your swimsuit at noon in July. So maybe that's
Thanks.
not very realistic. But also the risk of skin cancer is a concern for a lot of people. And so we also don't want to risk overexposing ourselves to the harmful sun rays. So why not play it safe and supplement with a quality vitamin D supplement?
I agree. This is always one of my top recommendations. And I too just write overall health because it
Mhm.
does, it plays a role in so many different areas of our body,
Mhm.
including bone health. Without enough vitamin D, calcium is not fully absorbed into the bones for optimal bone health. And we don't want excess calcium floating around our bloodstream. I mean, that is unhealthy as well. And most dietary calcium supplements do contain a little bit of vitamin D for this reason, but we really do want to optimize our vitamin D levels for optimal bone health. So many individuals, especially women, come to us for bone health. And, again, a vitamin D supplement is a top recommendation for me. And I personally recommend supplementing with a vitamin D with K2. And that's easy to find nowadays. And the vitamin K2 helps with vitamin D absorption. So it helps you to absorb more of that vitamin D. Vitamin K itself is very important for bone health. And then vitamin K plays a role in magnesium and calcium metabolism too.
Yeah, and you might as well, if you're taking a supplement already, you get more bang for your buck, right? If you're adding another supplement or if another supplement is already added to that. So it's just one little capsule and you're getting both of these wonderful, important vitamins. So you just mentioned bone health. Another really important role that vitamin D plays is in our immune health. So you might have heard of low vitamin D being correlated to worse outcomes after getting the COVID-19 virus. So it makes sense that our vitamin D status is really highly reflective of the strength of our immune systems. We recommend supplementing around 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3 per day for a healthy adult to really maintain those proper vitamin D levels. But if you have a weakened immune system or you have a high exposure to contagious illnesses, you may need to go up to more like 10,000 IUs per day.
Yeah, I think it's important to test your vitamin D to find that optimal amount.
Absolutely.
Because I've found with clients, it does
Mhm.
vary from person to person. Some people do need that 10,000 to be in an optimal range, and some people only need five. So I think it's important to test. If you need to increase, then retest to make sure that you did increase enough. And in addition to the bone health, immune function, vitamin D plays a big role in mood regulation too, especially seasonal affective disorder. And
It's the
that is,
sunshine vitamin.
yeah, exactly. We for sure see more of that
Mhm.
living in
Mhm.
Minnesota or where we don't get much sun exposure in the winter. And although mental health, it's a multifaceted issue and increasing your vitamin D status may not be a cure-all. It's just a piece of the puzzle. And because it provides so many other benefits,
Mhm.
why not give it a go? And I do, if you are somebody who feels low moods most of the time, especially in those dark, cold winter months, I would highly recommend trying it. And I worked with a client a few years ago, and she came to me battling debilitating seasonal depression, where many days she just struggled to even get out of bed in the morning.
Mhm.
And we found that her vitamin D level was in the single digits. So
Oh, no wonder.
for reference, we really optimally like to see vitamin D at least 50 and even higher, closer to 80 can be very beneficial. But she also had other signs of low vitamin D, getting sick all the time, feeling weak and tired. So that was a top recommendation to have her start supplementing with vitamin D every day and then retesting in a few months to make sure that her level increased to that optimal range. Of course, we worked together on simple, real food ideas and cutting out the processed carbohydrates and sugar. So after about 6 months, she was no longer struggling to get out of bed, which was amazing. She had more energy to cook and she prioritizes taking the vitamin D every day because she felt that it did make such a huge impact. And, she's not perfect like the rest of
Mhm.
us, but she is consistent with taking that vitamin D.
Well, yeah, I mean, it changed her life, it sounds like, to take the vitamin D because we all know it can be such a struggle to get out of bed.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
just having more energy really makes it that much more motivating to stay consistent with your vitamin D.
Without a
So,
doubt. Yeah.
and I'm glad you mentioned about optimal levels because a lot of times clients will bring their labs to us and
Mhm.
sometimes their vitamin D levels will be just above 30 and that'll show up as not being deficient in vitamin
Yeah.
D, right? But we know from our functional standpoint that at the very least 50, but many people feel better when their vitamin D is in that 60 to 80 nanograms per milliliter range. So if you've had your vitamin D levels checked, you can bring it up in an appointment and we can double check those levels and see
Mhm.
if they're in that optimal range.
Yeah, absolutely.
So important for our overall health. And to summarize, if you're low in vitamin D, these are some things to think about. Do you pick up colds and flus or other viruses easily? Are you someone who finds themselves in low moods most of the time, and especially during the winter months? Have you been diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis? In general, do you live north of Atlanta, Georgia, and not spend much time in the sun? If any of these apply to you, I would highly recommend getting your vitamin D levels checked and supplementing to really bring that up. And again, minimum of 50 nanograms per milliliter. But for many people, again, 70 to 80, you're going to feel a lot better.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to a supplement that if you've been a longtime listener, you have heard us talk about many, many times because it is that important to our health. And that would be probiotics. More specifically, we talk a lot about bifidobacteria and lactobacillus acidophilus. I mean, there's many other strains out there, but those, clinically we've found to be very beneficial, and research has shown that
Mhm.
as well. They are some of the most prevalent strains of bacteria in a healthy gut. And the reality is, our digestive tract suffers a lot of damage from influences like poor diet, contaminated water, stress, lack of sleep. Antibiotics are a huge, huge one, and environmental toxins too. And an imbalanced gut might look like more obvious digestive issues: constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, or reflux. But would you think a compromised gut being the cause of your sugar cravings, or how about your acne, or if
Ah.
you catch every cold and flu going around? So, poor gut health may be to blame for all of those and many different other symptoms or conditions. And intestinal health also plays a huge role in our mental health. You've maybe heard of our gut as our second brain, and that is absolutely true. And it might be new information, but did you know that the vast majority of your neurotransmitters, or those feel good brain chemicals, are actually made in your gut? But if you don't have enough good bacteria, then that's going to negatively impact your ability to make those neurotransmitters. So if your gut health suffers, your mental health can suffer as well. So, gut health, as you can see, really plays a role in every aspect of our health, which is why it's so important to increase the good bacteria by taking a daily probiotic. And probiotics, they're naturally found in fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi. So I do like to suggest incorporating some of those into your diet too. Again, anytime you're able to get it from food, definitely that's important to do. But for overall gut health, for all the reasons that I've been mentioning, we do often recommend adding in a supplemental probiotic to get just a more consistent dose as well. I often suggest starting with bifidobacteria in a supplement called Bifidobalance. If you do have more upper GI symptoms like GERD or reflux, or you're prone to urinary tract infections or vaginal yeast infections, then the acidophilus strain might be a better place for you to start. Or you can get both strains in a supplement called Biotic Duo. There is a great article on our website, weightandwellness.com. You can find it by searching "What probiotic is right for you" in the search tab. And it's just a really nice guide that explains the difference between our most recommended probiotics and which one might meet your needs the best. So let's talk a little bit more about probiotics, but right now it is time to go to break. You are listening to Dishing Up Nutrition, brought to you by Nutrition, Weight, and Wellness. I am Brittany Vincent, along with Monica Haas, and we are your hosts for this episode, discussing some of the foundational supplements we typically recommend for folks wanting to add a little extra to their real food eating. We will be right back.
And we are back with your weekly Dishing Up Nutrition episode. Before we went to break, we were talking about probiotics and how to know which probiotic is right for you. So, Brittany was talking about an article on our website called "What Probiotic is Right for You." That can be really helpful in helping point you in the right direction.
For sure. And I just want to mention, as a side note, you will find that we have Bifido in capsule form and powder form, and then acidophilus as well comes in powder and capsule. I personally recommend if you're willing to do the powder, I think it's more bang for your buck. It does need to be refrigerated. But just to give you an example, 5 Bifido capsules is equivalent to a half a teaspoon
Mhm.
of Bifido powder. And the acidophilus powder is significantly more potent than the capsules. Sometimes when people are first starting out, you do want to start slower. So, of course, you can
Mm.
just do a smaller amount of the powder. But a lot of my clients would rather do a half a teaspoon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's almost a no-brainer because,
Yeah.
like you said, you get more bang for your buck. And I do find that a lot of clients, it's easier to get it in powder form. And so a lot of our supplements that we're talking about, that is the nice thing, is that most of them you can either find in liquid, powder, or that capsule. So that way you can figure out the best way to get it consistently into your diet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I too, Brittany, I'm always discussing the importance of probiotics when I'm meeting with clients. And a supplement that we often pair with probiotics is an amino acid called L-glutamine, which is also essential for a healthy gut. And like probiotics, it's often depleted from diet and lifestyle factors. So you can think of L-glutamine as a building block for the different tissues in our body. And
Mhm.
especially when we are talking about the intestinal tract, it can help patch up any damage that is present. So that's why we really like to pair it with probiotics for a healthy gut. A lot of times it fits naturally because we just tell clients take the L-glutamine and probiotics, 15, 20 minutes before your meal. And it really is an essential part of our overall gut healing plan. If you're not eating 4 to 6 ounces of animal protein with each meal, animal protein is the primary dietary source of glutamine. It's an amino acid. If you're not eating that amount, you can become deficient in L-glutamine.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not eating enough protein, stress depletes things.
Mhm.
And if you do have gut health, or if you do have an imbalanced gut or specifically leaky gut, your
Mm.
needs for glutamine might be higher too.
Brittany, what is leaky gut?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that because I think a lot of people have heard that term, but it, they have no idea what it means. And leaky gut is essentially, if you can think of it as little holes in a garden hose.
Mhm.
So that can happen in your intestinal tract. You can get little holes in the lining of your gut. And so bacteria, toxins, food can actually escape from your intestinal tract going into your bloodstream, where, of course, they're not supposed to be. So that can create an inflammatory response, an immune response, and signs of leaky gut could be anxiety, sugar or alcohol cravings, constipation, diarrhea, poor immune health, low muscle mass, slow wound healing, skin conditions would be another big
Mhm.
one. So you can see from that list why L-glutamine is definitely one of our go-to supplement recommendations, especially for those who have an imbalanced gut. It is so essential to repair and maintain a healthy gut because we know that our gut is really the foundation of our health. In addition to all the gut health benefits of glutamine, it can help with muscle recovery. So you could get the double
Mhm.
benefit of taking it after a workout. And I mentioned earlier, can help with sugar cravings. So, a little tip if you struggle with intense sugar cravings, you can put a little bit of the glutamine powder on your tongue. And for those it works for, they say within 5 minutes, it really does get rid of that craving, which is nice.
Yeah, that's such a good tip. I give that tip to my clients as well. And I've had good feedback from that.
Hmm.
Right. So let's talk about a mineral that I recommend supplementing to almost every one of my clients, and that's magnesium. Magnesium is so important because it's involved in hundreds of biochemical reactions in the body. including muscle relaxation, heart health. It improves the quality of sleep. And you can get magnesium in your diet through foods like green leafy vegetables, nuts, and seeds. But again, it's unfortunate because our soils have become so depleted of nutrients over the last several decades that our food just doesn't contain as much of magnesium and other minerals as they used to. So that means that the vegetables that your grandparents ate had a much higher content of magnesium than the same vegetables that we eat today. So magnesium is really a supplement that I recommend to almost every single one of my clients. And I will say from clinical practice and personal experience that it's something that people notice improvements in almost right away, especially when it comes to sleep. And sometimes supplements are tricky because you might not always be feeling the effects of a supplement because a lot of them are working at the cellular level. So you don't know if they're making a difference. But with magnesium, this is one where, especially for sleep, when I take it before bed, I immediately notice that I got a better night's sleep. So I think that's one of the satisfying things about magnesium, right? Especially when it comes to sleep, which is something so many people want to improve. So magnesium glycinate is a go-to for improving deep sleep, just letting your body fall asleep more quickly, getting that more restorative sleep. Also muscle cramps, really helpful for muscle cramps, Charlie horses, especially the ones that happen in the middle of the night. And then the citrate form that is in our mixed magnesium, that can be a good solution for constipation. So I do want to talk a little bit about the importance of choosing the right form of magnesium because there's a lot of different forms of magnesium out there. And the generic magnesium that you get from most, big box stores isn't going to be as high quality of a form. And also, you're just not going to absorb it as well. So it's not going to be worth your money. And we especially want to avoid the oxide form of magnesium, which is the cheapest. And that's where you're going to find most often in generic brands at the store. Sometimes when I suggest that a client take magnesium for improving their sleep or to relieve from muscle aches, they tell me that they tried taking magnesium in the past, but they really got digestive upset. They had loose stools, diarrhea. And so they just say, no, magnesium doesn't work for me. But then I ask them, what form did you take? Where did you buy it from? Because again, most of the magnesium that we find in stores is that oxide form. And then they find that to be the case. And so that's why they're having that digestive upset. Once they switch to the glycinate form, they tolerate it a lot better. Symptoms start improving. And dosage-wise, it really varies, and it depends what the client is using the magnesium for. But I usually recommend most clients start with around 250 to 300 milligrams of magnesium. And then we can see if that's making an improvement in their symptoms. Otherwise, I just tell them to start adding in an extra capsule until we get that sweet spot.
That's exactly my approach too. Yeah, it's a little trial and error, and magnesium or magnesium deficiency, signs of that. I mean, it's really anything like achy, tight, crampy. I used to get those terrible Charlie horses in the middle of the night, like you described. They're the worst because they disrupt your sleep. I mean, my calves would be sore the next day.
Yeah.
But they completely went away when I started taking magnesium. And that's my sign. If my eye starts twitching or if I get a little cramped, then I know, okay, my body needs more magnesium right now. So the dosage can, vary too. And when you're stressed, your body uses up magnesium super quickly.
I
So
was just going to say that.
body signs. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We're all stressed, but especially if you notice you've come from a period of time where, stress has been higher than normal, then you especially want to supplement with magnesium, if not go higher than what you have been doing.
For sure. Well, let's talk about multivitamins. Oh, and I do want to mention I did a Ask a Nutritionist podcast all about magnesium and the different types. So I
Mm.
go a little bit deeper dive. If you're interested, you could search for that, and it's a shorter episode. But let's talk about multivitamins. And I think for a lot of people, multivitamins probably come to mind when they're thinking about foundational essential supplements to take to meet those nutritional needs. And that's something I always have taken personally. I have my kids take. It's just an assurance you're getting lots
Mm.
of different vitamins and minerals in there. But if you've ever shopped for a multivitamin, you've probably been very overwhelmed by the options. There's
Mm-mm.
so many of them. And health food stores, supplement shops, big box stores, they often have a whole wall of multivitamins, and
Mm.
it is hard to know which one will best suit your needs. And I would say the majority of the multivitamins out there are not even worth spending your money on because
Mhm.
they are poor quality. And I think a good rule of thumb, most good quality multivitamins, you're going to need to take more than one capsule
Mm.
or tablet a day because physically these nutrients can be large. So it's difficult to just
Mhm.
actually fit them all into one.
That's
And
such a good
that's
point.
yeah. So quality really makes a huge difference with multivitamins. And the generic multis typically use cheaper forms. Monica, you mentioned the magnesium
Mhm.
oxide. That's a really good example. So if you look at the label of your multivitamin or one that you're interested in buying
Mhm.
and they use magnesium oxide as the form, I would just put it back because that's a sign that
Mhm.
they're probably using poor quality forms of other vitamins and minerals too. So, when I'm working with a client, I often suggest taking our NutriKey twice per day multivitamin. And this supplement was specifically formulated to be high in B vitamins for women. You know, if you lack energy, if you have stress, those B vitamins can be really beneficial. And of course, men can benefit from taking it
Mhm.
too. It's not just for women. So if you are someone who is finding yourself struggling with more energy or you have more stress currently, or again, if you just want that peace of mind that you're getting more
Mhm.
vitamins and minerals, then I would definitely suggest incorporating that twice per day or another good quality multivitamin into your mix. One capsule with breakfast, one with lunch. I know taking supplements at lunch can be really difficult to remember, myself included. So, if you need to take them both at breakfast, it's better to do that
Mhm.
than forgetting that lunch dosage. It's helpful to fill in the nutrient gaps from our diet. And if you're looking for a multi that could work for the whole family or for your children, the NutriKey liquid multi, it's what I'm currently giving my children. So I keep it in the kitchen cabinet. You can just mix it in water. My kids like the taste of it, or a smoothie. Pretty simple. Or if I ever run out of my multi, I could take it too, of course, at a higher
Mhm.
dosage. So when you
Mhm.
have a family, I mean, convenience is absolutely necessary. So that could be a good option as well.
Yes, I have that one at home too, and it works well in smoothies because I think it's a bit of a tropical flavor, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yep.
So, yeah. And Brittany, you mentioned the B vitamins, and that's another great thing to look at when you're wanting to get a quality multivitamin is that the B vitamins are methylated, specifically B12 and folate. You want it to say methylcobalamin and methylfolate because that is in the active form, and that's going to show you that that's a high quality multivitamin.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That's another key thing to look for sure.
Well, we wouldn't want to talk about essential supplements without mentioning omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are essential fats, meaning we have to get them from dietary sources. Our body cannot make them. And they play a crucial role in heart health, brain function, and reducing inflammation. Anyone who wants to fight inflammation, which is many of us, many of our clients are looking to decrease inflammation. We can get omega-3s by incorporating fatty fish into our diets, again, like salmon, but really a high quality supplement, taking it daily is going to be best for making sure we're getting those adequate amounts. A lesser known food source of omega-3s is high quality grass fed beef from cows who feed on omega-3 rich grasses. Omega-3s are also found in some plant foods like walnuts and chia seeds, but because they are plant-based, they have a form of omega-3s called ALA that isn't as well used by the body as the omega-3s found in animals, which are EPA and DHA. So again, there is another example of how our body seems to absorb animal-based foods a lot better than plant-based sources. When it comes to dosage, I want to point out that just taking one capsule of 1,000 milligrams of omega-3, that's usually not enough. We really recommend around 3,000 milligrams of an omega-3 that has that EPA and DHA fish oil combined. That's the dosage that we want daily, 3,000 milligrams. That's going to help combat inflammation, boost brain and heart health. Sometimes clients come to me with a lot of pain and inflammation, and maybe they're already taking a fish oil supplement, but when we really look at the dosage, they're only taking 1,000 milligrams, which again is just not going to be enough. We do have an extra strength omega-3 that sometimes I will put my clients on that I feel really need extra help in reducing inflammation.
We've been talking about quality of supplements, and this is very important with omega-3s as well. I have calculated like a common brand from a big box store and looking at the actual amount of that EPA and DHA that you mentioned, Monica. You needed to take 9 of those capsules to get the equivalent
Wow.
of a good quality one, like the omega-3 1000, of just taking 3 of them. So that's a huge difference. And I think a lot of
Yeah,
times with supplements, you do get what you pay for, unfortunately. So just keeping
absolutely.
that in mind as well. And before we wrap up our show today, I do want to briefly discuss other tips for choosing supplements because we do want to make sure if you're going to put the time and effort and money into it, that you're getting something good quality that's really supporting your body. And so here are some tips to make more informed choices, looking for something that's third party tested. So choose supplements that have been tested by independent organizations. You might see NSF International, GMP, USP, or Consumer Lab would be some examples on this. So you'd find that noted somewhere on the bottle itself. And then secondly, check the ingredients. Avoid supplements with unnecessary fillers, artificial colors, sugar, additives. I mean, we've been mentioning some specific forms to look for as well. And I want to thank you so much for joining Monica and I today to talk all about our most recommended nutritional supplements for overall health. And remember that supplements can be a helpful addition to your routine, but they should complement a balanced, real
Mhm.
food diet and healthy lifestyle. So always prioritize real food. And if you're unsure what's right for you, we highly recommend meeting one-on-one with a dietitian here at Nutritional Weight and Wellness, and we will get a customized supplement and food plan just based on what your individual needs are. So thank you for joining us today and have a wonderful day.
Our goal at Nutritional Weight and Wellness is to help each and every person experience better health through eating real food. It's a simple yet powerful message. Eating real food is life-changing. Thank you for joining us today.